Hey guys, what's going on? I know I've talked on and off about progression in general, but I don't think I've made a dedicated video for it, so that's what we're doing today. We're gonna break it down into a few different parts. We're gonna start with the quest tab, as this will be your main point of focus for a while. Always try and complete as many of these as you can. Your bottlenecks will be when you have to use skill books to raise a hero's skill level or have a certain number of ascended or transcended heroes. Always look ahead on this. If something stops you in the middle of the day that could have easily been prevented, like doing a run of Stockade or something, that'll slow your progression down. The mission rewards are usually pretty small, but most of them are very useful and they do add up. Basically what I did when I started on my main and my mini account is to save all limited tickets until before I stopped playing for the day. This would include Stockade, Upper Dungeon, and Orville Castle. You know, the gold place, the place you get gold. Anyway, again, you could simply look ahead, and if you see something that will be unpassable until at least the next day, and no missions to enter any limited entries places in between, then go ahead and spend your tickets. Similar but different to this point is getting as many 3-star clears on the chapter you're on before moving on to the next. The most important is clearing normal mode, as this will usually give you a good amount of fragments once you complete the whole chapter with 3 stars, which are used to upgrade your heroes. Hard mode usually gives you rubies, which are also important, but not as urgently needed as fragments. If there's 1 or 2 stages that are giving you trouble, try a few times before giving up. If it's one hero in particular dying over and over, preventing that 3-star clear, check their gear, upgrade the defensive ones a bit, and try again. If that still doesn't work, level them up a little and come back later. Levels alone play a huge part in a hero's strength, even if the stats you see don't change much. The next thing to talk about is which heroes you'll get with the various hero selection tickets you'll get throughout playing. I made an entire video discussing this, which I'll link below, but if you want the too long didn't watch version, here it is. With your 2-star ticket that you get as soon as you clear Chapter 1 on easy mode, which should happen on your first day, pick Epis and replace Roy. With your 3-star ticket you get on your 5th day login, pick another magic DPS like Luna, or a sub DPS with utility like Maria or Priscilla, and replace Cleo. That depends on preference. Maria's massive amount of CC may help you get through early content you're not quite ready for yet by CC locking your enemies. With your 5-star ticket you get on your 7th day login, pick Jane and replace whoever is left in your team. This should either be Castle or Claws at this point. You get Claws when you clear normal mode on Chapter 1. You can raise Claws later for later game content where he shines brighter. So your starter team would be Jane, Epis, Frey, and another DPS or utility hero. Maria is the safe option here. That's the very TLDW version though. This isn't even taking into account any unique weapons you may have gotten at this point thus far, which brings us to another point. You'll get a random unique weapon on your 3rd day of playing. Depending on what that is, it could make sense to pick up a certain hero instead of the ones I just suggested, but there's no way to know what you'll get. You'll only have Epis at this point though, so ask around once you find out what unique weapon you got, and see if that hero would fit alongside the rest of your team. As a general rule of thumb, the unique weapons for the DPS heroes are the most important. As a side note, King's Raid has had events in the past where they handed out random unique weapons, and on my little account, I had one from a previous event available for my very first day. This would allow one to re-roll accounts until they got a desirable unique weapon, but I've personally never bothered with it, probably because I didn't feel the need to as my first one was already desirable. As of recording, there are no such events going on. Does that mean you should wait until an event comes up like that? No. You'll get much further if you start now and accept whatever random unique weapon comes your way in the future. Next, we'll talk about fragments and where to get them. This is probably the single most important item for progressing. As stated previously, clearing normal mode with 3 stars on all stages will net you a nice chunk of them. This isn't true for all chapters, like Chapter 1, but most of them. The next place you can get them is buying the Fragment Pack for 7.7 million gold. This comes with 100 of all 7 fragment types, and it resets twice a month, once at the end of the month, and once in the middle. 7.7 million gold might be hard to save up, but the sooner you can get this, the better. You can also get a significant amount from some stages of the Tower of Challenge in Chapter 2, so climb as high as you can. I believe it was stage 20 that has a significant amount, and it's not too difficult. The main place you'll be getting fragments though is from Upper Dungeon. You won't get many here at first, but you can do it every day, and you can choose which ones you want to get. All 7 classes of heroes need a different combo of fragments. You can see which ones your hero needs on their main screen, labeled common. It's generally recommended to have your main DPS one step ahead of the rest, followed by the tank being the second highest priority. Many classes have overlaps in what fragments they need. Each fragment type serves 3 different classes, so it's important to keep that in mind when deciding on which hero to ascend. Your overall first big goal is to get to farming Chapter 6 Upper Dungeon. This shouldn't take too long if you're careful with planning, and at this point you can start really reeling in the fragments with a commonly known tactic called loot boosting. A quick summary is purchasing a loot booster from the special shop for 500 rubies, using it 30 minutes before server reset, and doing 2 days worth of Upper Dungeon farming with 1 loot booster, since they last 1 hour. You'd want to be strong enough to comfortably run 15 times in 30 minutes though, 20 times if it's a special weekend where we start with 10 keys. On non-loot boosting days, it's only worth refreshing keys with rubies the first time for 100 rubies. And when you're using a loot booster, refresh twice for a total of 300 rubies, and again in the second half hour for a total of 600 for the full hour. Total cost is 1100 rubies, and you'll get 600 fragments of your choosing. Next we're going to talk about guilds. It's important you get into one as soon as possible, but also to ensure it's a good one. It doesn't need to be full of op members, since if you're a beginner you may not get in anyway, but an active guild that does guild raid each week and can clear at least most of the bosses on normal would be good. The main reason for this is the guild shop. You can use the guild tokens you get from clearing bosses to get more fragments. Killing one normal mode boss drops 80 fragments in the shop that you can buy, which is a total of 480 extra fragments a week if they're all cleared. This will help tremendously in your early game progression. Moving on from that, we're going to talk about dragon raids. If you join a decent enough guild, there should be a few strong people in there that may carry you on some high level dragon raids. In the beginning, you don't need to aim for level 70 plus dragon raids. Level 60 is also good. Because your goal isn't the gear that drops, it's the raid tokens and the enhancement crystals. Going for even a few higher level raids will get you thousands of raid tokens. You can then buy cheap dragon gear from the forge and enhance it with the enhancement crystals you got from the raids. Some say it's not worth it to deck out your heroes in T3, T4, or even T5 dragon gear, but I disagree. Yes, it will get swapped out very quickly. Even T5 gear may not last more than a few days depending on who gets it. But if you leech just a few runs a day, the cost to deck them out in appropriate dragon gear and the benefits it has early on are worth it. You can also go somewhere in the middle and just get dragon gear for your DPS and maybe your tank while keeping the others in purple gear. When you get to the part where you have a full team of T1 or higher heroes, you should use all randomly collected filled EXP bottles on your main DPS, which will probably be Epis. Don't ever put empty flasks on heroes that aren't at their max level. The only exception would be if your main DPS is level 70 and getting close to level 71 and you're getting impatient. Then you can temporarily flask up your other heroes to give Epis that push she needs. Then of course the hard part sets in. Now that you have a level 71 hero, you will be going on dragon raids for gear. And since you probably still need to be carried at this point, it might be a struggle to get what you want. Thankfully, I noticed that there's generally a lower desire for assassin gear, which is what you'll be going for. Of course, you also need orbs and earrings, which are always in high demand. Another option is doing Fire Dragon, which is considerably easier than Black, and you might not even need to be carried for it. I wouldn't throw too much stamina into it though, as Black Dragon gear is generally better. It would be a decent stepping stone set though. You generally want to try and find raids outside of hot time and use your stamina on grinding levels and doing your daily conquests during hot time. You should rush to get your first level 60 hero, because then you can do World Boss. You can do it twice every day, and you should. And even though you might not do much, you do get a reward box at the end of each fight that can contain some good stuff, or at least a bit of gold. One final thing, which I think is very massive, that's the Come On Try Your Luck achievement. Most people recommend until you beat the first stage of Chapter 7 before starting this achievement, but again, I disagree with that. As I've said before in the past, the faster you progress, the faster you progress. I would wait until you can clear the first stage of Chapter 6 to do this, but not any longer. You do need a bit of gold to get it started, around 10 to 20 million, but if you finish it, not only will you end up with a massive gold profit, but hundreds of fragments, skill books, empty flasks, stamina foods, and maybe even a random artifact or two. All this stuff will help you greatly, especially early on. I would go so far as to say, instead of buying the fragment pack for 7.7 million, rather spend it on blue summons to kick off the achievement. Of course, if it's close to the 15th of the current month or the 1st of next month, go for the fragment pack, as you will miss the opportunity to buy them. The thing is, if you get far enough into the achievement, you can have all the extra items from the blue summons as well as plenty extra gold to also then buy the fragment pack. This is something I've also made a dedicated video on, so I'll link it below. And yeah, that's basically it. There may be some small things here and there, but I believe I've covered the most important aspects of progressing quickly. The main takeaway is going for a magic team, sticking to those 4 heroes, leeching some higher level raids for raid tokens, joining a decent guild, and getting as many fragments as you can. If you have any questions, make sure to drop a comment down below. Leaving a like would also be greatly appreciated if you did happen to enjoy. Thanks, as always, for watching, and until next time.